Hello, you all right?
Yeah, how are we, Tom, lad?
Very good. Sorry about the delay then. I messed up on a post before. I had to redo it.
On that subject, right? I've just finished a shift at work there at Radio Merseyside. I had three games. I had Southport, Chester, and Tranmere.
Yeah.
There's me thinking, right, it's not a Premier League game, so I'll be in for a relatively quiet afternoon as a producer in the booth. I had a 4-0, a 3-3, and a 1-1.
Oof. That's a busy one.
Like, I know what you mean about messing up on tweet. Why isn't there an edit tweet feature?
Oh, honestly, I ask that question every day because I make a mistake every day. And on Facebook and Instagram, you can just sort it like that. But on Twitter, you've got to get rid of it, lose all the interactions and engagements as well, and then do it all over again. It's a joke.
It's a
And
nightmare,
everyone's asking for it. Everyone's been asking for it forever, so I don't know why they haven't done it.
and you've got to go back and delete the tweet. And
Oh, it's a joke. Is that what you're doing for them? Yeah, social media
well,
for me. So,
pretty much, mate.
oh,
Basically,
gosh.
I'm a producer, um,
Yeah,
freelance producing. Basically,
he's right.
obviously, because it's where I've got all my experience for the sports shows. Um,
Yeah.
oh, I said hello to Robbo for you, Steve.
Oh, he's funny, and he
Very fond of you, lad. He said you're
is
a
he? I know
guy.
why.
No,
Oh,
his
he's
boss
funny.
Robbo, isn't he? I love Steve.
Yeah, I was involved with in a car chase, not a car chase, a bus chase with him once because gave me. I think we were at an event. He hosts our events at Witness usually, and what's it called? I've missed my bus, so Steve gives us a lift. But we had to chase the bus all the way down, like near. We nearly come out of Witness in the end. We were nearly on the lanes towards like Neville. He was like flying past cars to try and catch this bus, and then like pulled in, like proper cut the bus off so I could then get out and jump on it. But no, he's a top guy, isn't he?
No, yeah, honestly, mate, like I don't know if they watch me podcast, like, but I really like I can't speak highly enough of everyone in that sports team and how they've took me under the wing and they've taught me like um Chris Coughlin, Carl Woodward, uh,
Yeah,
Mike Hughes, Grace Eden, James Mountford, like all the people at Radio Merseyside, man, they're so welcoming. This is something I wanted to talk about with you, like, because
mm.
the last podcast that we did, was it in reaction to Messi leaving Barcelona? Was that it?
I think so. Was it Emily? Yeah, it will have been actually. Yeah, I remember us talking about Barca. I don't know if it was like, could Messi leave? Like, is it a reality? I'm like, what's actually going to happen? I think there was rumors at the time. I don't think he'd left yet, but I think it was like the reports had come out that he might be leaving, and we were like, is he actually going to leave? I think so. Anyway, I can't fully remember.
It's not necessarily what we talked about. It's just to put a sort of time scale on it because it was quite a while
Reality.
ago, quite a while
Yeah.
ago to now. It like so we basically become mates through basically our aspiration to work in sports media, wasn't it? We all sort of ended up reporting on the same things, ended working for the same sort of organizations that's unpaid, like just like rogue organizations. It's just making sort of paying your dues to sort of make a name for yourself. But if someone would have said to you 3 years ago, or whatever it was, 3, 4 years ago, that you'd be where you are now, would you take it?
Yeah, definitely. To be fair, it's different to what I expected. Like, I thought I was going to go into the similar route to you, like kind of like you're obviously well in with Merseyside now, and you're working for Match of the Day magazine. That's massive, and that's the route I saw myself going down as well. Like in terms of going the news and production side of things, and then I've ended up going down a different path, haven't I? With having worked for Marina, then decided it was club media I wanted to do.
Hmm.
I never expected to go into rugby league because that's a sport I knew nothing about, obviously, and I've ended up doing working in a sport I honestly went in blind with no knowledge whatsoever, so it's a different route. So I would have been like, well, it's, it surprised me 3 years ago that I'd be working in sports I knew nothing about then. But working in club media, like professionally, I'm more than happy with. So definitely, yeah, I think.
Yeah. That what I think with you, lad, in particular, is that I don't want to say that the Tottenham game made you, because I would argue that it didn't, because obviously I've seen all the work and the graft that you put in, way before that and way after that as well. You know what you mean? But you performed so well as the social media manager for Marine. I think that really did tee you up for club media. Would you argue the case that because that went so well, that is what sort of made you realign your expectations for your career and realize, hang on a minute, like I am really good at this?
I think so, yeah. That was definitely part of it. Like the enjoyment of that game and the kind of like the euphoria of it all. I was like, I want this to be my life. This is amazing. I want this all the time. And obviously it was never going to be Marine playing Tottenham, that sort of fairy tale all the time. But like I liked the way I was on the club side of things, and I liked the way I control in that way, and that's what made me enjoy it, I think, and probably is what teed me up as well for the job, and put something on my CV as well, because obviously the virtual ticket campaign we had going done us a lot of favors, and it was something I could put down and say I've done that, and it helped me get a job like I got in the end. But in a way as well, it was realizing that I wasn't the type of person to go into journalism. Like sometimes one of my weaknesses, I'd say, is being a bit cheeky and asking people for interviews and things like that, which I've got to do in my job now, and I've got to just do it, because you have to do it, don't you? Like you've had all sorts on yours. You've gone up to Wayne Lineker and ended up getting him on the podcast, which is amazing. But like, I'm not the best with that side of things. I'm not the best to be
I
like.
understand that. I needed to have a few drinks in me before I went up to him.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not the best at that. So like, and that's a big part of going into I want to say journalism. Journalism's got a bad press for want of a better phrase. But I wasn't the best at that, and having done the sports journalism course in John Moores, I realised that like you'd have to you have to scour all sources for information to be a journalist, which I kind of struggled with, really. And I thought, on the club side of things, if you hold the cards, it's definitely easy in that respect, and kind of easier to have relationships, I've found as well, with like the players, for example. I think they trust you if you're with them, like, and if it's easier to kind of get stuff out of them, whereas um, in the press, I would have found it difficult, I think, in terms of building relationships with people like that, because it is a trust, isn't it? It's building a trust, and it is easier if you're wearing the same training gear as them, and if you're obviously on the team with them and on the bus with them, and I found it easier in that way. So I think from a comfortableness point of view, I've gone into club media, but now in terms of the Marine game, the Tottenham game, I think that gave me a taste for it. So that's just the way it's worked out. But in several ways, yeah, several factors have affected it. But the Tottenham game was definitely one, yeah.
No, definitely, lad. But I just like sort of touching on it as a whole. Like to my point earlier, basically, we've sort of gone off like talking about like career aspirations and working in sports media. But from our last podcast to now, when we did that last podcast, did you have the role at Widnes Vikings, or?
Ooh, I don't think so. I think it was just before, maybe, because I reckon we would have spoke about it. I reckon it was after Tottenham, but before I got the witness job.
Yeah,
It wasn't long between them, to be fair. Just a few months, but I reckon it was somewhere in between, to be honest. Yeah.
because that just goes to show, lad, like, because even now, I think one thing we can definitely say about each other is we didn't half graft. Like, and that's not, I don't say that, arrogantly. But I genuinely think that is a message to get out there, because honestly, like the amount of people that you see popping up on social media, starting their own independent fan pages for whatever it is, a football club, mixed martial arts. I've seen a couple of like mixed martial arts, like independent fan pages pop up. Like at the core of it, you've got to have that work ethic, haven't you? You've got to be willing to put the graft in for essentially no money.
Yeah, for free. Yeah,
to be able to achieve a career in it. Which is it's interesting though, lad, because I feel like although we put so much work into it, we still are very much at the start of our careers, aren't we? Which is interesting.
yeah. I think you have to be when you're young. I think you've got to earn your respect, haven't you? Like it's a journey properly, and the start of the journey was doing all that work for free and like going along to Howard's Way, like for nothing, but something that we really enjoyed.
We were by far the youngest people in that room, weren't we?
I felt it as well, like definitely, because especially because we were interviewing people who were much older than us, and it wasn't like you're speaking to young lads, you're speaking to legends. So like we definitely felt it in that way. But in terms of the media side of things as well, I think we were definitely the youngest in the room, and I think that's the way we kind of. You've got to start at that point though. You've got to earn the respect, and you've got to do 3 hours and I feel like the youngest in the room to eventually progress. And hopefully in the future we'll be the older ones in the room, and we'll have Graham Sharp or whoever it be at that point in our careers, whether it be Alex or Obi walking up to us.
Alex Iwobi. On the subject, did you think it was going to be him that popped up with a 99th minute winner?
Never, no way. I'm not a big fan of Alex Iwobi in general, to be honest. So for him to do that, honestly, I've been very critical of him. But
as we all have, that's not just you.
Yeah.
I think every
Like,
Evertonian's been.
yeah.
I don't think it's just Alex Iwobi though, mate. I think Evertonians, and rightly so, to a degree, have been very critical of all the signings that we've made post 2016 when the investments come in. So sorry to cut you off there. I just didn't want it. I didn't want you. I didn't want to cast the shadow on you being like a big Iwobi doubter, like out on your own, because I don't think it's just exclusive to Alex Iwobi. I think there's just a skepticism about the recruitment as a whole. But that's a conversation maybe for later on, maybe for a different podcast. But that result really, we're talking about Everton picking up a 99th minute winner and Newcastle United on Thursday night. Lad, that Goths man is a match, isn't he? He's
got 90+9 winner. You seen that on that guy.
Right. You know what, right? I'll mention me mum, because me mum, as soon as she saw the lad going on the pitch and tying himself to the goalpost and all that, once she found out what his motive was, she was really sympathetic towards him. Whereas I think, like, a lot of football fans, particularly, did you go? By the way, did you go to the game?
No, I watched it from home.
Oh,
my mum's birthday.
Oh,
did you go?
Yeah, mate, I went.
Yeah.
Oh, the limbs at the end, though. But like, the initial response to someone who comes up and ties themselves to the goalpost in the middle of a crucial game is obviously going to be like vitriolic. People are going to direct anger towards them. I don't think that's, I think that's pretty logical. That's a pretty common response that you're going to get. But I understand his message. It's, something to do with crude oils and government dealings. All I know is that, the cost of living's going way up to a point where it's basically unacceptable in comparison to wages. If your cost of living's going up and wages aren't going up, I don't know how how society is meant to sustain itself. And one would argue that may be the point of the cost of living going up, is that, just to keep the poor, but, that's getting a bit too political. I understand his motive and good on him, but I don't think that was the time and the place.
No, he's to be fair to him, he had balls to do it at that point in time because a lot of people were going for him, and even when he was getting carried off, he was getting a lot
The
of thrown
supporter
his
who
way.
ran on. You see the supporter who ran on and tried to like fill him in and like
Yeah, yeah. There was, I think he got arrested as well. I hope they weren't put in the same cell, but I think he was arrested as well, wasn't he? Like a 40-year-old fella. I wonder if it was the same fella who jumped on that Everton Leon game with the baby in his hand. But no, he tried to have a go at him, didn't he? But it was fair play to him for doing it in a game like that. But I think it helped us out in the end. Obviously, we needed that at the time, but it was a choppy game anyway. It was one of them where like it wasn't refereed at the best standard, and there was a lot of disrupts the game anyway. Not even just him, just in terms of like little fouls and little stuff like that. It was a weird game, really. Obviously, it got worse with the Allen stuff as well, but it was just up and down completely. So in the end, it ended up helping us out. So we've got to be grateful for him. But it probably wasn't the time and the place in terms of a relegation scrap. But he was getting more exposure, wasn't he? Maybe that was his motive.
yeah, at the end of the day, he's got what he wanted. Don't know about the whole getting carried off by your arms and your legs. But, on the game itself, right, as you rightly pointed to there, mate, it was very, I think choppy probably is the right word. It was very void of consistent quality, I would say. The one moment of real quality coming in that link up. Seamus Coleman was my man of the match, by the way. I know Alex Iwobi won it and probably, in many people's eyes should have, given that he provided the pivotal moment in the match. But Seamus Coleman, for the slander that he's been getting, and yes, fair enough. He's in his 30s now. He's not the player that he was, I would argue, at the time when he was in his prime, alongside Leighton Baines at the other, on the other side, the best fullback pairing in Europe. People may poke holes at that, but from watching them in and out, I would say so. But that performance he put in, and it's just epitomised in that challenge he won in the middle of the park. I think it was against St. Maxim, filling in that centre midfield position where we just, had a man sent off, goes to Iwobi goes past Ben, I think it is, where it gives it to Calvert-Lewin. I thought Calvert-Lewin's first touch was going to fuck him up. I thought he fucked it up. I hopefully, if Dom, watches this, I highly doubt he will. But do you know what I mean? I thought that it just took all the momentum out of the phase of play, but he managed to, look like a back heel from certain angles, but he just managed to put it back into the path of Iwobi. Yeah, that was a very calm finish in a very important moment. But as you say, mate, the game lacked quality, and I think that was in part because being there, I genuinely don't know if there's ever been a game of football where I've been so nervous. I was like genuinely nervous because I think the stakes were so high. I think given the run of fixtures that Everton have coming up, we've got a lot of big games against some against top sides and others against sides that are banging form, the likes of West Ham. And that's not to say West Ham are probably, West Ham are where we want to be at the moment. Let's not kid ourselves, which is quite hard to say. I'm not going to group West Ham in with the top sides, but they are a side in form at the moment. We've got a couple of massive games coming up, including the one tomorrow, FA Cup quarter-final, which we'll talk about. But for me, we had to win that game against Newcastle because 3 points have been so hard to come by. That was a must-win game. So how did you feel as that game played itself out? I hope I'm not alone in how nervous I felt.
Yeah, no, honestly, it was terrifying. It was like if we lost that, then it became reality. That it was like reality anyway after the Spurs game that we could go down. It's a genuine possibility now. But if we would have lost that, it would be like kind of an acceptance in a way that like, right, we're not good enough to stay up.
Yeah.
And from the performance, which wasn't great, if we wouldn't have scored that goal, it would have been a very low quality game, and it would have really worried me. Even if it was 0-0, we got a point, it would have been like, well, what are we going to find? It was pretty toothless for the most part until Dom came on and gave us a bit of a focal point. So I was genuinely worried up until that point. But that Iwobi goal was like, honestly, I was saying this to my brother when it happened. We jumped up, and it's sad to say it, but that was the best moment as an Everton fan for ages. Like, honestly, because we haven't had much to celebrate recently. And Alex Iwobi winning in stoppage time against Newcastle, celebrating that to keep us 17th in the league. That shouldn't be what we're celebrating so much. But in the context, it was so much needed, and it swings the momentum of our relegation fight so much, and kind of it gives us a platform that I hope so much that we can build on, because what will usually happen is Everton will win a game like that and then just slip back into a rut. But if we can kind of take momentum from that into the quarterfinal and obviously the league games as well, which are running, as you said, is absolutely like really difficult. And I'm not sure how we're going to get on in that, but at least we've got that to take from it, and at least we've got some kind of morale now going in, even if we can't do anything on the back of it. At least that'll it's a bit of positivity around the club now as well, when in a really dark time. So we definitely needed it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think Frank Lampard got it right in one of his many, post-match interviews. He said that, the quality wasn't there. It wasn't full of, pass and move, ideal football that we want to see. But it was a game full of fight and desire and passion, where the players were not always, but for the most part, in tune with the supporters. Because I agree with 100% with what you're saying, mate. We shouldn't be celebrating, just given the context of the situation. We shouldn't be so delighted about this whole thing. Like, me personally, I think it's a disgrace. And this comes from the fact that I didn't experience the 1990s. I think, I'm speaking on behalf of the both of us here. I hope you don't mind. I'm very privileged in that I didn't experience the 1990s. I grew accustomed to Everton being, at the very least, a Europa League challenging side, always sort of pushing and poking for the European places. But this dip that we've seen, there are there were a lot of variables that have contributed to this. Obviously, case in point, the biggest of that being the appointment of Rafael Benitez. The decision to sell two of our most creative players in James Rodriguez and Luca Dean for little to no reason, when they themselves has pretty much come out and said they didn't really want to leave. It's been, and I think this adds to the context of the relief of that game, where we saw an Everton side. It's hard because on paper they should have, I'm not saying they should be the best team in the world or the best team in the country, but they should have enough quality to be challenging for those Europa League places, I think.
You look at the squad,
the defense maybe is questionable, but when you look at the midfield and you look at attacking talents such as Richarlison, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and Anthony Gordon, who's shaping up to be one hell of a player, we should be pushing, I feel. So to be in the situation that we're in is strange, because I genuinely think it's almost like a confidence issue with the squad, because it's almost been reflected in their performances. Like, I thought to myself, for the most part of that game, Newcastle looked like the home side here, which is strange. They looked a lot more, convinced, well coached, understanding in what they were trying to do. Where as Everton, you didn't have much faith that they could string an attack and move together, as you say, to your point of it not being full of chances. But that's football for you, mate. It's all down to that one moment. We lose a man questionably, very questionably. The officiating as a whole and the whole season, I would argue, has been very dubious. But that's not a controversy that I want to get drawn into. We should be good enough officiating decisions aside to win games of football.
Yeah.
So to go down to 10 men when Alan, who had a good game, he's, up to his usual. He's a commanding presence in the middle of the park, always looking to win the ball back. To lose a man in such an important position, then come up with that goal. Andre Gomez, by the way, deserves a lot of credit. Come on, and I would argue changed the game in the context of the few moments that he was on. He was involved before that goal happened. I'm going on, but that was massive. It was massive because it was 3 points that we couldn't. You couldn't see those 3 points coming, could you? The run of form that we've been on and the luck that we've been having, you couldn't see those 3 points coming our way. When we went down to 10 men, you would have took a point, probably. But even then, when you take a point, you think, oh, we're still in the shit really badly. So we still do need the 3. But then the most unlikely of suspects in Alex Iwobi comes up with the win, man. Those limbs.
It must have been incredible to be there.
They're up there. I was in the paddock. I've never sat in the paddock before in my life.
Yeah. Close to the pitch, like, aren't you, to be fair?
Yeah, the limbs were
Yeah.
absolutely incredible, lad. Obviously, it's less likely now with an important 3 points, but do you think relegation's still a probability?
Yeah, it is. It is, to be fair. It's definitely a mathematical probability, but it's the way we're looking as well. We've still got those couple of games in hand, but when you look at the opposition we're playing in those games and where we are at the minute, we will struggle to win those games in hand. So you can say, yeah, we've got 3 games in hand, but it doesn't mean anything when we could get absolutely battered. And some of the games we've got, we could as high as we may be now after that, we could get knocked straight back down tomorrow against Crystal Palace, and you don't know what the morale will be like going into those games based on tomorrow or based on whatever happens in them as well. It's still a definite possibility. I do believe there are worse sides than us, and it would be a surprise if we were to go down with the talent of like some of the players at least that we've got in the squad. I know the defense has been horrendous, and the attack and midfield haven't really knitted together either, to be fair. But if you look at like some of the players just isolated on their own, like obviously Donny van der Beek come in. Dele Alli, with his quality, he's not been very good since he's come in because he's not got going yet. But and he's not really been given much of a chance. But when you look at players like them two, and obviously the talent that we've got anyway, the likes of Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin, as you said, and even in the defence, like we've been missing Yerry Mina for a while, and Ben Godfrey's not been the best, and he's been injured for a while anyway. But players like those being relegated at the level they're at now, and then you see the likes of Leeds who went to absolute pot. So like they just broke this season. Obviously Bielsa's gone. Jesse March has come in to kind of pick up the pieces. But like Brentford as well, they've been awful at times. Like when we beat them, they were really bad. And to think teams like that could stay up and we could go down, I do think we have more quality than those sides. So we should stay up, but it's whether we win those games, because we have got a really tough run, and it is a genuine possibility, and it is worrying still. But hopefully that game gives us something to fight with for the end of the season, and we've got the right manager to bring the fight anyway. I'm happy that it's not Rafa, and maybe Rafa will be more organised and defensive and try and keep clean sheets. But we've got.
I'm not a lad. That I think that put the whole Benitez will make you strong at the back argument to bed.
I suppose. But
Entire season.
Change the style of football. I mean, he'd obviously be more defensive and I suppose organised. But I'd rather go down fighting, or not even go down, because I don't really think we will. But I'd rather go into a relegation scrap fighting rather than sitting back. And that's what we're going to do with Lampard. And it might be we might have some tough results, and because if you run at that Liverpool team and a derby coming up, then we're gonna find it tough. But I'd rather I have a relegation scrap like that rather than with the with the managerial style of Rafa Benitez. And I know he wasn't as defensive and organised. He wasn't as effective with those strategies as we expected. But we've got the right man, even if he's not the most experienced manager, to bring the style that we want in a relegation scrap. So I think there's positives in that anyway.
Definitely. What's your take on the appointments of Frank Lampard as Everton manager? Because I've not really got your perspective on the appointment.
Really, like I don't want to place too much importance on it because it was just a little thing, but I think genuinely that the video that came out of him having a go at Klopp played quite a big part in the fans' opinion of that appointment. Genuine, I think that played a big part, because he's obviously having a go at Klopp. And
Is it the one where at Anfield behind closed doors where he tells them you've only won one Premier League, fuck off?
Yeah, giving it the bigging and all this. You only won one, and like genuine, like I think that like helped the fans get behind them a little bit. And I watched that and thought, yeah, he's got something about him there, and he's having a go. Obviously our biggest rivals, and I think a lot of fans that give them something to get behind. And but no, but not just that. He's a very bright young manager who will have a go and an attacking playing style, which is what we needed. Refreshing. He's so good with the press as well. It's actually like
brilliant, isn't he? He's given really good account of himself to the media.
Yeah, very well spoken. Always says the right thing. Very charismatic as well, and he can switch from having a laugh and a joke to no, but seriously in a flash. No, but he speaks so well, and he just always seems to say the right thing, even if sometimes he does have shortcomings. He seems to get the club already, which is more than can be said for a lot of the managers that we've had over the last nearly a decade now. And he gets it more than a lot of them ever did already, and that's something you can definitely get behind. And even if he does have shortcomings, I think he's the right personality anyway that we can get behind. And I do think he's a bright young manager, and if we can get ourselves together, if the squad can actually get produce some quality, then we could genuinely have some actual success with him.
I would agree with that, and to your point, he has got his head screwed on, hasn't he? Because I remember seeing an interview with Des Kelly of BT Sport where he's saying usually I'd come into a club and I'd sit down and I'd look at the medium to long term of how I could implement my own philosophy. What culture do you want to generate around the club? But he says, the immediacy of the situation that Everton Football Club find themselves in, that's not something that he can afford to do. He needs wins, and he needs them as soon as possible to secure our Premier League status, which I never thought I'd say as an Everton fan. Again, that's maybe down to me not experienced troubling times before. But as you say, he conducts himself right. I hope for his sake, because he has got on my good side, and I do think quite highly of him. I did, and I'll say this to you, Tom. Because obviously, God, how many managers have we been through since David Moyes? 6? Is it 6 now? 5 or 6?
Oh, Jesus, yeah. I think so, yeah.
But Lampard in the past had always been a name that had bandied about in the background, whether he was at Derby. And I have my reservations that he was tailor-made to become Everton manager, because obviously we haven't won a trophy since 1995, and I could have seen at any moment over those years where, post David Moyes, where Everton come out with a statement, we've appointed Frank Lampard as manager, he is a proven winner. Well, he's a proven winner as a player. He's not a proven winner as a manager.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where I feel like the questions about his potential lie. He's obviously got Derby to the playoffs and fell short. if I remember correctly, did well in his first season at Chelsea and then dropped off. And it's got to be considered that he was under a transfer ban when he first come to Chelsea as well. So for the talent that he's developed, you've got to tip your hat to that. I do think pending Everton obviously maintain their Premier League status following this season. And again, it's not even down to Lampard. It's down to the recruitment, because recruitment. It's everything. How many people will tell you that within the football industry? The people that you get in define the culture of the club, define, how far you're going to go. So, the new director of football, Kevin Thelwell, if I'm correct in saying, listening to his first interview with the club, again, I really liked him. He come out ad hoc with the saying, nil status nisi optimum, and that's what we've got to aspire for. And I love to hear that from people affiliated with the club. He's got like familial ties to the club as well. Something like his dad supported Everton or something. I'm not quite sure where he's from. He sounded northern. So again, similar to Marcel Brands, he's given off all the right vibes. It's just that matter of the final delivery. I feel like that goes down to not only, that's important off the pitch, it's important on the pitch, it's important in the boardroom. It's just that delivery, mate. And something that could go a long way in, settling any reservations about this current regime. I would argue, as I've sort of outlined, the importance of staying in the Premier League, but still at the top of my list is winning a trophy. And I understand that adds onto your game load and the intensity for the players, and all players are human. But Everton Football Club, for one of the most successful clubs in the history of English football, have not won a trophy while I've been alive. So I feel like it's about time. Not the easiest of ties, lad.
No.
Crystal Palace. What are you thinking ahead of tomorrow's game?
If they look really good this season, I didn't expect Vieira to do that as well as he has. I know his Nice team didn't do amazing, and then he obviously went out to America for a bit, and I'm not really too sure how he did out there, but the way he's come in and established himself in the Premier League and kind of transformed that Crystal Palace side, I think the Crystal Palace overhaul has been something that wasn't just down to Patrick Vieira. I think it's a big backroom job that they've done in terms of shipping out players who've been there for ages and kind of just refreshing the team. As you say, recruitment is so important, and that they've recruited well. But they just look a completely different animal this year, and they will be really difficult tomorrow. And it's looking at it now. Usually, Crystal Palace in the quarterfinal of an FA Cup, you'd lick your lips and think, brilliant, through to the semis in Wembley. But genuinely, they're a good side, and they will give us a proper game, and they probably are. If you look at it this season, well, the table says they're a better side than us, but if you look at some of their players, they genuinely are better than us in a lot of areas. They've got strength all over the pitch. Their attacking talent is really strong. They've got Conor Gallagher, obviously on loan.
Michael
Elise, yeah. I watched him in the Championship for Reading, and he was a really exciting player. And he's come up, and he's obviously transferred that form, and he's a really good, not just a prospect now, but he's showing himself to be.
He's delivering
a level, as well, and it's not just attacking, but defensively as well. Obviously, Mark Guahi's just got his first England call up as well, and they've got Guaita in goal. He can be unbelievable on his day, and they've kind of refreshed that team and recruited really well, and they're genuinely dangerous. And I am nervous for tomorrow because I think they will be a really tough test, and it'll be an exciting game because it's two teams will proper have a go at each other. Hopefully we will anyway, but I think they will be really difficult tomorrow, and just fingers crossed, because I think I can't remember who it was who said on Twitter, but if these group of players, as much as these messed up this season, if they can stay in this league and win 3 cup games, they'll be remembered forever. Like,
It's
honestly,
crazy. It's
that's all
crazy.
it is.
It's crazy to think that, by the way, isn't it? It's crazy to think the season Everton could possibly win the FA Cup is by far the worst season in my memory.
Yeah, it reminds. I say it reminds me because I don't know. Obviously, we didn't live through it, but from what I've read and seen, it's a bit like
95.
95, really, isn't it? Like, obviously, the Dogs of War, and I don't think this group have the same mentality of the Dogs of War and that toughness that they had. But in terms of obviously just about staying up, fingers crossed, and having a FA Cup run as well, it could be a similar story in that way. It's just I don't see it happening myself with the strength of the teams in the FA Cup left and the likes of City and Liverpool. I just don't see it. City still in the FA Cup, the
Yeah.
League Cup, yeah. So honestly, it will be really difficult. But if we can get past Palace and get to Wembley, just even getting to Wembley, like that.
By the way, do you fancy coming with us if we do? This is me being this is me being big headed or arrogant. Like, all right, I'll give me dues to Crystal Palace. I agree with everything you just said. In terms of the fans, they're probably my favourite London club. The fans are incredible. They're a very good side, but in stature and in the history, Everton are the bigger club. I understand in form and probably not on paper, because still on paper, I would say Everton have the better side. In form, they are the better side. This season, they have been the better club. But if Everton Football Club want to show us that, they're serious about pretty much, being a team operating at the highest level that they possibly can, winning tomorrow will go a long way for me. Because it's like you're coming up a side in form who's beaten you 3-1 at their ground before. You're riding that momentum of Thursday night. I know you might be a bit tired. Can you transfer that into a cup game where based on form, you're not favourites? We're going into this and we're not favourites, which is quite hard to wrap your head around, isn't it? But, all respect to Crystal Palace is all I'm trying to say, but I'm not trying to look past them at all, because it's going to be one hell of a game tomorrow to get past them. But if we do and we go to Wembley, it's going to come with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't want to say anything too early, obviously, as you say, but absolutely, I'll be game for going down there. I've never been. I didn't actually go. I got tickets for the semi against Liverpool and couldn't go in the end. So I've never been with Everton to Wembley. So
lad, I bet you're fucking made up.
yeah, I'm glad I didn't go to that one. Yeah, I would have loved to go to 2009 Chelsea in the final, but even though that didn't end well
I
either.
went there as well.
Did you go for Man United in the
No,
semi?
that's the one I didn't go to. I didn't
Oh,
go to
that
Man
would have been
United.
unbelievable.
Every time I've gone to watch Everton at Wembley, they've got beat 2-1.
Really? Yeah.
That's for you, lad. Chelsea, Liverpool, and Man United in the semi-final.
Oh, well, hopefully, it's not the same result again. But
I might just
we have
stick
to
it
get,
up.
we have to get this. No, I'd put a bet on it if we do get there. Definitely put a bet on it just in case. But no, fingers crossed tomorrow, because it will be tough tomorrow, and they'll be. What annoys me as well, you mentioned tired. They've had the longer break. We'll be going into it with tired legs from Thursday night, having played what was nearly extra time. With those 14 minutes added on. So hopefully the squad isn't too knackered, because it's a pretty thin squad anyway with the injuries that we've had recently, and the bodies who we've had out. So fingers crossed that we're not too tired from that one. But we just got to give it everything. It's such a big game tomorrow. As big as Thursday was, this is massive as well.
Of course, this is massive. What are you doing for it, by the way? Where are you watching it?
I've Witness are playing away in York, so
you not go?
I'll be. I think I'll be just arriving in York. It's a 12:30 kickoff, isn't it? We're on the bus at 10:30, so I'll probably just arrived in York. So I'll have media duties to be cracking on with, so I won't be able to watch it. I'll keep talking it though.
I was right if you wanted to have a little thing, a gaff one for it, but
Oh, I would have as well.
Might
But
be
watching Witness away, responsibility as well. Fingers crossed for wins for Witness and Everton.
no, fingers crossed, lad. But
Mm.
listen, by the way, I ever keep looking up there. By the way, it's because I've stuck the UFC on.
Oh, yeah.
Very unusual for the UFC to be on at this time, but it's because it's obviously at the O2, isn't it, in London?
Yeah.
Quite a heavy Merseyside contingent on the UFC card. They got Molly McCann, obviously repping the Blues. No one else. She'll probably come up with an Everton flag on her back.
Mhm.
You got Paddy Pimley, and you've also got Tom Aspinall, who trains in Carbon, the same gym as Darren Till. But I find it that interesting, lad, because he gets bandied about like I think he's from Salford, but like each time he makes a ring walk, like the commentators say he's from somewhere completely different because he's from I think he's from like Wigan ways or something. Or so I think he was born in Salford, lives in Wigan, but like people say he's from all over the place. People have said Liverpool, people have said Salford, people have said Wigan, people have said Manchester. But it's just an interesting one. But I rate him really highly. I think he's gonna go all the way to the top. He's still quite young, absolute beast heavyweight. But yeah, I can just see a Paddy the Baddy promo on at the minute, so he must be
Oh,
fighting soon. But
to watch it.
yeah,
I'm not quite around. I'll watch it to be fair, but no, I'll have to pop it on. I think I've heard of that Tom Aspinall, but I've not watched him. I've seen a little bit of Paddy the Baddy and Meatball Molly, obviously, but and I was watching that documentary on actually. I'm not massively into the UFC, but I've seen a bit of that. Yeah, because she's good at it, isn't she? But seen I'll have to watch them tonight, see how they get on. A decent scouts continuing, but no, it sounds like the commentators have got a bit of. I reckon they've all got a bingo card for this Tom Aspinall, just ticking off all these different places to say he's from, and whoever gets the last one wins.
nah, probably. But listen, lad, I appreciate you taking the time out to speak to me on a Saturday evening. I just thought it'd be nice to come in from my shift, kick back with a pint of Erding and talk with me mate. So
Yeah.
listen, it's been too long, lad. We'll have to
Mm.
organise something and meet up for a pint because
Mhm.
we've got a bit on next month, haven't we? We got the Grand National, haven't we?
Wasn't for that.
Which is gonna be an interesting one because I'm going to Ladies' Day on the Friday as well.
Oh yeah, you'd be a bit hungover.
We'll see. We'll see. But I love that, lad.
Oh,
It's my favourite day of the year. I love the night.
oh, I've never been, boss.
Oh yeah, lad, it'll be boss. Honestly, trust me, it's amazing. But listen, we'll do something before, then we'll try and link up, have a little
Yeah, yeah.
pint or whatever.
No,
But listen,
Bradwell.
yeah, man, listen, love, respect, everything, lad. You're my brother. I
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah. Nice one for having me on. Been a pleasure. Nice
it.
one.
Lad, and until the next time.
Nice one.
Like so, anyway, anything you want to plug, by the way, to the people, is you want to check out any work?
Follow Witness on everything because yeah, follow Witness on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. Just get on it. It's great. Putting some absolute quality content out there or trying to. So yeah, give us a follow. Get into the rugby league. That's something actually before we go. That's something I want to do because Scousers aren't into rugby league because people from Liverpool generally have a perception about rugby, but you don't realise it's a proper impact sport. It's fast, and if Scousers actually watched rugby league, I reckon they'd proper get into it. So come along to Witness because it's boss. Yeah.
Interesting. It's an interesting one. Tom, thanks very much, brother. I'll speak to you soon.